the gift no one wanted. The throne room of Varzen was huge and cold. Sharp black pillars rose high above, glowing with purple lights. Alien nobles watched from both sides, their eyes cold and mocking. They were waiting for entertainment. In Yila, the center of the hall, stood Corvin, a human soldier, dirty and bruised, with his hands tied in front of him. His face was calm, even though he had been beaten and dragged across the galaxy. His brown eyes showed no fear. The alien king, Zaltor, sat on a tall throne made of metal and bones. His armor was covered in shining stones. He raised one hand to silence the crowd. Then, with a wicked smile, he said, "Human, you fought well, brave, strong, but now you are nothing." Corvin didn't reply. He just stared at the king. Zaltor laughed and then nodded to his guards. Two of them came forward, pulling a small figure between them. She was a girl, thin, weak, and barely able to walk. Her skin was pale blue, and her silver hair fell over her face. Her legs trembled with every step. She wore a simple robe, torn and dusty. Strange glowing marks ran across her arms. The hall went quiet. "This," the king said, standing up, "is my daughter, Princess Thiara, broken since birth, cannot walk properly, cannot speak without stuttering. A shame to my bloodline." A few nobles chuckled cruelly. "So," Zaltor said, his voice full of mockery, "since you humans love to fix things, I give her to you." Corvin frowned. "You're giving me your daughter?" "Yes," the king said. "As a gift, or a punishment. Depends on how you see it." Thiara raised her head for a second. Her eyes met Corvin's. They were not dead eyes. They were sad, afraid. But something was still there, like a weak flame trying not to die. "Take her away," the king ordered. "Let them rot together." The guards pushed Corvin and Thiara out of the throne room, down the long halls, and into a broken tower on the edge of the city. The place was dirty, full of old furniture and dust. No guards were left behind. No food, no care. It was meant to be a joke. A forgotten place for two forgotten beings. Corvin sat against the wall, breathing deeply. His wounds hurt, but his mind was sharp. Thiara sat in a corner, knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. After a long silence, Corvin spoke. "Why did he give you away like that?" Thiara didn't answer. "You don't deserve that," he said, softer now. "You didn't choose to be born this way." She slowly looked at him. Her voice was barely a whisper. "He always hated me." Corvin crawled closer. "What are those marks on your arms?" She looked down. "They glow, sometimes. I don't know why." He gently reached out, not touching her, just showing his hand. "May I look?" She nodded. He examined the marks. They were like symbols, moving slightly under her skin, glowing faintly in the dim room. They looked almost alive. Suddenly, thunder rumbled outside. Rain began to fall. Thiara flinched, covering her ears. Her whole body shook. Corvin reached over, placing his hand gently on her shoulder. "You're safe. I'm not here to hurt you." She trembled for a moment. Then, slowly, she relaxed. That night, as rain poured outside, Corvin couldn't sleep. He watched Thiara as she slept curled up beside a broken chair. In her sleep, she muttered strange words. Then, without warning, she screamed and sat up, her body glowing faintly. The marks on her arms flared like fire. "No, don't take me, please." Corvin rushed to her side. "Thiara, wake up. It's just a dream." She opened her eyes, panting. Tears ran down her cheeks. "You're okay," he said softly. "You're safe." Her voice was shaky. "They used to put me in dark rooms. When I made things, glow." "Who did?" "My father. The priests. They said I was cursed." Corvin's jaw tightened. "You're not cursed. They're afraid of you. They see something they don't understand." Thiara looked at him, confused. "Why? Are you kind to me?" Corvin smiled a little. Because no one ever was kind to me either. For a moment, they just sat there. Two broken people in a broken place. Then, in a soft voice, she asked, "Will you help me?" Corvin didn't speak. He just nodded. And in that moment, something changed. Thiara's marks glowed warmer. Like her body understood that, for the first time, someone believed in her. Secrets in her skin. The next morning, weak sunlight filtered through the cracks of the broken tower walls. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars. Corvin slowly opened his eyes, still feeling the ache in his back from sleeping on the stone floor. He turned to check on Thiara. She was already awake, sitting cross-legged, tracing her glowing skin with her fingers. The strange symbols on her arms had changed color overnight. They were now a soft golden blue, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. "Did you sleep?" he asked, moving to sit beside her. Thiara shook her head. "I saw memories, not dreams. Memories that weren't mine." Corvin raised an eyebrow. "What kind of memories?" "A tall, alien woman with armor of light. She stood before a burning city. Her arms were glowing like mine, and she called lightning from the sky." Corvin stared at her. "Are you saying you saw someone with powers like yours?" She nodded slowly. "She looked like me, but older, stronger, and..." She wasn't afraid. He studied her face. Her silver eyes were clearer today, more focused. The trembling in her hands had reduced. She was changing. But how? And why now? "Maybe you're remembering your ancestors," Corvin said. "Maybe your powers come from a forgotten bloodline." Thiara tilted her head. "I thought I was broken." Corvin smiled slightly. "Maybe you were just asleep." They spent the next few days in that tower, away from the noise of the palace. Corvin used his old soldier training to build a simple routine, stretching, walking, and balance practice for Thiara. She couldn't walk without stumbling, but she tried again and again. Corvin would hold out a stick, and Thiara would grip it tightly, focusing with all her strength. One step, stumble, fall, repeat. But each day she fell less. At night they would talk. Corvin told her about Earth, about green forests, blue skies, stories, and music. Thiara listened like a child hearing fairy tales for the first time. She had never been told stories, never heard music. "Do humans have kings?" she asked one night. "Some places," he said, "but the best leaders don't rule with fear. They lead with heart." "That sounds impossible." "You'll see." One evening, a loud sound echoed outside the tower. Both of them jumped. Corvin peeked through the broken window. A drone, small, black, with red blinking eyes. It hovered in the air, watching them. "Stay still," he whispered. "They're checking on us." The drone floated closer, scanning Thiara's body. Her arms were glowing again. Suddenly, the symbols on her skin reacted to the drone's light. They flared bright gold, and the drone exploded in midair with a loud bang. Corvin ducked, covering Thiara. The air filled with smoke and sparks. When it cleared, she looked down at her arms in horror. I didn't mean to." "You protected us," Corvin said, shocked. "Your power. It's reacting to danger. It's alive." Thiara stared at her hands. "Then why does everyone fear me?" Corvin replied calmly, "Because power without control scares people. But you're learning to control it now." Later that night, something even stranger happened. Thiara was sleeping. Corvin was awake, writing in the dirt with a piece of broken wood, trying to track the symbols she had shown. But suddenly, the walls of the tower started glowing. Not brightly, but in faint lines, just like the patterns on Thiara's skin. Corvin stood up and followed the light. He touched the wall and part of it slid open. Behind it was a small chamber, hidden for years. Inside were scrolls, old books, and a glowing staff. "What the hell is this?" he whispered. He picked up a scroll and opened it. The language was alien, but a few words were in old Earth symbols. Mixed, like a hybrid language. There was a picture of a girl with glowing skin, a warden, a protector of peace during ancient wars, and under her feet was a prophecy. She who glows in weakness shall rise in fire. Beside her stands the fallen star, and together they will wake the storm. Corvin stepped back, his heart racing. Fallen star? Was that him? And Thiara? Was she the girl in the prophecy? He didn't tell her right away. Instead, the next morning, he showed her the hidden chamber. Her hands trembled as she touched the staff. It glowed in her grip. The scrolls opened themselves. The lights danced around her body like they recognized her. They called them wardens, Corvin said. Protectors, not broken, not cursed, Thiara whispered, but why me? Corvin looked at her serious. Maybe because your people gave up on peace. Maybe because someone like you still has hope. Thiara clutched the staff. My father, he lied to me, to everyone. Corvin nodded. And that's why you'll be different. Suddenly they heard footsteps above. Guards shouting. Someone had seen the drone explode. They were coming. We have to leave, Corvin said. Now. I can't run fast, she whispered. Corvin pulled her close. Then we don't run. We fight smart. As he helped her toward the back tunnels of the tower, Thiara whispered again, her voice steady this time. I'm not afraid anymore. And for the first time, neither was he. Training in shadows. The secret tunnel was cold, dark and full of old smells, dust, oil, and something like forgotten fire. Corvin held a tiny glowstone in one hand, leading the way. Behind him, Thiara followed, her steps slow but steady, gripping the staff tightly in both hands. Neither of them spoke. Not yet. The echoes of shouting guards still rang in their ears. They could hear boots crashing into the tower above, searching, shouting. But the guards would not find them. Not down here. This tunnel wasn't just a place to hide. It was something more. After walking for nearly an hour, they entered a wide underground hall. Old pillars stood in rows, cracked and covered in glowing vines. Strange machines were half buried in the ground. Above, small holes let in soft green light from the world. Above. This place is ancient, Corvin whispered. I think... It's from the time of the wardens, Thiara said, touching one of the pillars. I've seen it in my dreams. Corvin looked around. Then it's perfect. This is where we train. The days that followed were long and hard. Corvin, once a soldier of Earth's elite survival forces, began training Thiara the only way he knew. Slowly, patiently, with focus. She was weak in body, but her mind was sharp. Her eyes were eager. He built exercises from simple things, standing on one leg for 10 seconds, then 20, lifting rocks, carrying water in broken jars. At first, she fell often, but she always got up. Every fall became fuel. Again, Corvin would say, holding the stick out. Again, she would reply, gripping it tight, pushing forward. The glow in her body became steadier. The symbols stopped flaring without warning. Now they answered her will. She could make light. She could create small shields of energy. And once, only once, she stopped a falling rock in midair with just a whisper. But it wasn't enough. You need to learn to control your emotions. Too, Corvin said one day. Your power listens to your heart. If you lose focus, it could hurt you. Or me. I know, Thiara said quietly. Corvin picked up a metal disc. Then let's begin the next step. Meanwhile, back at the palace, King Zaltor sat. In his war chamber, his eyes furious. A shattered drone lay on the table in front of him. She destroyed it, he said, voice low. That weakling. She's alive. And glowing. A hooded figure stepped forward. Her name was Sirva, the king's dark advisor. Her voice was smooth like oil. The girl is becoming what we feared. The old blood is waking. She should have died as a baby, the king growled. But now she is with a human, Sirva replied. And the prophecy speaks clearly. The fallen star will wake the storm. Zaltor slammed his hand on the table. Send the iron blades, find them, kill the human, and if she resists, bring her back in chains. Sirva bowed. As you command. Back in the tunnels, Thiara stood blindfolded. She held the staff in both hands, breathing slowly. Corvin circled her, tossing small stones her way, quietly from random directions. Feel the danger, he said. Don't look. Listen. Trust your marks. A stone flew toward her back. Suddenly, a flash of blue light burst behind her. The stone bounced off an invisible shield. Yes, Corvin said. Again, another stone, this time from the left. She spun, swinging the staff, and blocked it midair. Corvin laughed. You're learning. Thiara pulled off the blindfold, breathing hard but smiling. I don't feel useless anymore. You never were, he said. They just made you believe that. Then they heard it. A strange clicking sound from deeper in the tunnels. Multiple footsteps. Metal scraping against stone. Corvin's face darkened. That's not a normal patrol. He grabbed her hand and pulled her behind a fallen pillar. Soon they saw them. The iron blades. 7 alien assassins, tall and thin, dressed in black bone armor. Their eyes glowed red. In their hands curved weapons that shimmered with poison light. The king sent his worst, Corvin whispered. They're not here to arrest. They're here to kill. Then we fight, Thiara said, gripping her staff. No, Corvin replied. We survive. Your power is not ready for 7. She hesitated but nodded. As the iron blades spread out, Corvin and Thiara crawled through a crack in the wall, deeper into the forgotten system of ruins. But one of the assassins saw the glow, left behind. She was here, he hissed. The warden walks again. In a hidden chamber, they paused for breath. Thiara sat down, trembling. I was ready to fight, she said. I know, Corvin replied, checking his blade. But next, time you'll fight on your terms, not theirs. Thiara's hands lit with soft gold. When that time comes, I'll be ready. And somewhere behind them, the red eyes of the iron blades began to close in. The trial of the forgotten. For 2 more days, Corvin and Thiara stayed hidden in the ancient ruins beneath Varzen. Their food was running out. Their strength was tested. But their bond had grown deeper. Thiara had learned to control her light, to bend it, shape it, and hide it when needed. Her limp had almost disappeared. Her voice no longer stuttered when she spoke to Corvin. And though she still feared the outside world, she no longer feared herself. But the iron blades were not far behind. They were getting closer. On the 3rd night, a trap was triggered, a motion alarm from the old ruins, a pulse of green light. Corvin jerked awake. They've found us, he whispered. Thiara sat up quickly, gripping her staff. I'll fight. No, Corvin said. Not here. We go up, towards the old court. There's one chance left. What chance? Corvin looked at her, eyes steady. We make them. See what they tried to destroy. They ran through a hidden tunnel that led to the old central chamber of the palace, abandoned for years, filled with dust and memories. Once this place was used to crown leaders. Now it was forgotten, until tonight. As they entered the hall, Corvin lit the central fire basin with a sparkstone. Flames roared to life. Old statues of ancient wardens stood tall around the edges, their arms raised in honor. Thiara stood in the center, trembling slightly. Are you sure about this? She asked. Corvin nodded. If you show them who you are in front of the crowd, in front of the king, they can't deny it, not if the whole city sees it. But if I fail, you won't. And just then, crash, the doors of the chamber exploded open. The iron blades stormed in, weapons raised. Behind them came the royal guards. And then, Zaltor himself, followed by his dark advisor Sirva. The king's voice boomed. You dare return here, cursed child? Thiara stepped forward, holding her glowing staff. I am not cursed. I am the blood of the wardens, and you are afraid. The crowd gasped. Nobles arrived from all corners of the palace. Whispers filled the room. Many had only heard stories of Thiara, Now they saw her standing tall, her mark shining bright under the firelight. Zaltor snarled, "Enough! Seize them both!" As the guards moved, Thiara raised her hand. A shockwave of energy burst from her body, knocking the soldiers back, but not hurting them. Just then a flying orb floated down from above, the trial sphere, a living relic, old and powerful, used only once every century to test the blood of true leaders. It scanned her. Silently, everyone held their breath. "What is this?" Zaltor barked. "Who activated the sphere?" "I did," Sirva said suddenly. All eyes turned to her. "What?" Corvin asked, confused. Sirva pulled back her hood. She was older than she looked. Her skin, like Thiara's, held faint glowing lines. "She is not the only one born of warden blood," Sirva said, "but I hid mine. She is purer. She deserves the trial. You betrayed me," Zaltor shouted. "No," Sirva replied calmly. "I serve truth." The sphere floated above Thiara's head, scanning her body slowly. Suddenly, it glowed, brighter than anyone had ever seen. Ancient runes appeared in the air. The statues in the room began to hum, and then the sphere opened. A beam of golden blue light shot out, forming a symbol in the air. The mark of the true warden. Everyone fell silent. Thiara was breathing hard, her eyes glowing like twin suns. "She passed," one noble whispered. "She's the one from the prophecy. She's royalty." Zaltor stepped back, afraid for the first time. But then he screamed, "I don't care what magic says. She is still nothing. Guards, kill them both." The iron blades moved forward again, but this time they were stopped by the people. Dozens of younger warriors and noble children had entered the chamber. They stood between Thiara and the king, raising their hands, shouting, "Enough! We've had enough lies." Corvin stepped beside Thiara. "They believe in you now," she nodded. "Then we don't run anymore." Thiara stepped toward her father, her power glowing softly, not as a threat but as proof. "I don't want your throne," she said. "I want truth. I want peace. And you need to answer for what you've done." "You are not my daughter," he hissed. "No," she replied. "I'm more than that." As Zaltor shouted again, trying to regain control, the trial sphere moved behind him and locked him in a cage of light. His power was over. The people didn't cheer. They stood in silence, finally seeing what had been hidden for too long. Corvin looked at Thiara and whispered, "You've just changed everything." But deep in the crowd, a shadow moved quietly. A darker force was watching, and it wasn't finished yet. Enemies rise from within. For the first time in years, the palace of Varzen stood quiet. King Zaltor had been captured by the very light he once mocked. His roars echoed from the glowing cage, but no one listened. Nobles whispered. Guards lowered their weapons. Thiara stood calmly in the center of the old trial chamber, surrounded by flickering lights and open eyes. Corvin remained by her side, bruised, dirty, tired, but ready. "You did it," he whispered. "They see you now." Thiara's hands were trembling. "They don't all believe yet, but maybe they're listening." But as peace settled over the chamber, a sharp voice cut through the silence. Then it's time they heard the rest. Everyone turned. From the shadowed edge of the chamber, a tall figure stepped out. Dark robes, no face visible beneath the deep hood. But power rolled off him like heat from a furnace. Sirva, the king's former advisor, stiffened. "You," she breathed, "you shouldn't be here." The figure pulled back his hood. His face was marked with ancient runes far older than Thiara's. His skin shimmered like oil under firelight. His eyes were pitch black, bottomless and cold. "Who is he?" Corvin asked. "His name is Rex," Sirva whispered. "High priest of the Deep Order. Long thought dead, and clearly," Rex said, voice like wind through a graveyard. "Reports of my death were premature." Without warning, the room darkened. Torches flickered out. The glowing trial sphere cracked and shattered mid-air. Zaltor's Light cage vanished. But before he could move, Rex raised one hand and the king dropped to his knees, choking, clutching his throat. I let you wear the crown, Zaltor, Rex said coldly, but you forgot who gave you power. The crowd backed away, terrified. Rex turned to Thiara. And now you ruin everything. Who are you to speak of ruin? Thiara challenged, staff raised, energy building in her skin. You hide in the dark and control others like puppets. Rex smirked. You think glowing arms make you strong, child? You think a broken daughter can save this world? He raised both hands, and black energy shot across the floor, twisting into shadow beasts with glowing red mouths. They leapt toward the nobles, snarling. Corvin! Thiara shouted. On it! Corvin ran forward, blade drawn, slicing through the first creature as it lunged. It exploded into ash, but more came. Protect the people, Thiara ordered, her voice louder than it had ever been. She slammed her staff into the ground, sending a shockwave of golden energy outward. The beast slowed, but didn't stop. Sirva stepped beside her. Your power isn't enough alone. You must wake the deeper light, the one inside your blood. How? Thiara asked, panting. Accept who you are, Sirva said. Not broken, not cursed. Born to balance light and dark. Thiara closed her eyes. Memories flooded her. The tower, the cruelty, the loneliness. Corvin's hand reaching out. Her first step, her first laugh. The people chanting her name. And then, silence. Inside that silence, something pulsed. Second heartbeat, not hers, but something older. Waiting. Her eyes opened. Burning gold. The symbols on her arms spread across her chest, neck, face, glowing brighter than the sun. She rose into the air. Rex's monsters screamed, backing away. Corvin looked up in awe. She's ascending. Thiara raised one hand, and a massive shield of light formed over the chamber, protecting the crowd. Her voice, when it came, was not her own, but a chorus of voices through time. We are the Wardens, and we have awakened. Rex snarled, shadows twisting around him. He threw a spear of black energy at her. Thiara caught it mid-air with glowing hands and crushed it. The ground shook, the ceiling cracked. The shadows screamed, but Rex only laughed. You may win this room, girl, but the deep order is not so easily broken. He vanished into smoke, leaving behind one final warning. You carry the storm, child. Storms destroy. When the darkness cleared, the nobles knelt. The young warriors dropped their weapons and bowed. Sirva, wounded but alive, stepped back and said softly, You are more than a princess now, Thiara. You are the spark, but the storm is only beginning. In the silence that followed, Corvin took her hand. You saved them, he said. Not yet, Thiara whispered. But I will. The war they tried to stop. Smoke still hung in the air as dawn broke over Varzen. The city, once ruled by fear and cold order, now stood on the edge of something new. Word of what happened in the trial chamber spread like fire. Crowds gathered. Whispers turned to chants. The name Thiara passed from mouth to mouth like hope reborn. But inside the deep stone halls beneath the palace, Thiara was not resting. She sat on the floor, back against the wall, head lowered. The glowing marks on her arms had dimmed. Her body was shaking. Not from fear, but from what she had felt during her awakening. Voices. Memories. Lives not her own. It was too much, she whispered. Corvin knelt beside her, gently placing his hand on hers. You held it together. Only barely, she said. And Rex escaped. He's still out there. We'll find him. He's not alone, Sirva added, stepping from the shadows. Her robes were torn, blood dried on her forehead, but her eyes still sharp. The Deep Order was never just one man, she said. They planted roots across planets, spies, sleepers, believers. They want to burn the galaxy and start over. Then we'll stop them, Thiara said. But they were already late. That same morning, 3 ships rose from the city's military docks. Painted black, with no banners, deep order loyalists, high-ranking officers, betrayed the council and fled with stolen weapons. Within hours, they had reached the outer cities. Fires lit the sky. Defense towers were destroyed. Villages once loyal to peace were now held by shadow soldiers in dark armor. A rebellion had begun, but it wasn't Thiara's. It was against her. Thiara stood before the remaining council members and nobles. "I will not sit in this palace while people burn," she said. "Send me to the front." "You're a symbol," one noble said. "If you fall, then let them see me rise again," she interrupted. "Give me the young, the ones who believe in something better." And so a new force was born, not an army but a movement, fighters, healers, dreamers, led by a human soldier who had nothing left to lose. And an alien girl once called Broken. They called themselves the Ember Ring, a small flame meant to grow. Weeks passed. Skirmishes broke out across Varzen's moons and colonies. Shadow beasts attacked supply routes. Deep order ships cut off star paths. Fear spread again. But this time Thiara was not hiding. She fought on the front lines, her staff glowing like a beacon. Corvin trained the Ember Warriors, teaching them human tactics, old Earth survival, quick strikes, and how to use terrain. Thiara stood beside him in every battle, but with every victory, the shadows grew darker. On the third moon of Varzen, during a mission to rescue captured villagers, Corvin was injured. A shadow blade sliced across his chest. He fell back, coughing blood. No, stay with me," Thiara cried, catching him. The shadow soldier lunged again. But Thiara's scream unleashed a wave of light so massive the sky turned gold. Dozens of enemies vanished in a blink. But Corvin didn't move. "Hold on," she begged. "Please." His hand covered in blood reached for her cheek. "You're stronger than all of them. Don't forget who you are." "You're not leaving me," she whispered. But his eyes were fading. And then he smiled. "Thank you for giving me something to believe in again." His hand fell limp, and Thiara broke. Her light exploded, rising into the sky, forming a spiral above the moon. Every corner of the warfront saw it. Friend and enemy. It wasn't just power. It was grief, and it was terrifying. On Varzen, Sirva watched the sky change color. "She's waking something older now," she whispered. A young warrior beside her asked, "Should we be afraid?" Sirva replied, "Everyone should be." 3 days passed. Thiara didn't speak. She sat beside Corvin's body, now wrapped in the banner of the Ember Ring laid beneath the silver tree on the moon. But when she finally stood, her eyes no longer shimmered. They burned. "Rakes took my past," she said, "but now he's taken my heart." She raised her staff. "We end this." Rise of the Warden Queen. Thiara stood at the edge of the cliff on the silver moon, her cloak blowing in the cold wind. Beneath her feet the earth still glowed faintly, with the light of Corvin's last battle. The tree that marked his grave stood strong, its roots deep in sacred soil, its leaves shining like starlight. Behind her, the Ember Ring had grown. No longer a small force. They were thousands now. Not just from Varzen, aliens from distant moons, humans from the stars. Even creatures once hunted had come forward, answering her call. She was not just a broken daughter anymore. She was the Warden Queen, and she was preparing for the final war. Deep in the heart of space on a shattered planet called Greylith, the Deep Order gathered. Rex had returned, but he was no longer flesh. His body was now a shell, his eyes endless voids, his arms stretched like bone wrapped in shadow. The dark crown of thorns floated above his head, feeding on sorrow, death, and fear. He stood before a throne made of dying stars, surrounded by his twisted followers, beings who had burned their own memories to serve darkness. "She comes," one of them hissed. "Let her," Reichs replied. "We need her to open the gate." Thiara, On her ship, the Corvin stared at the ancient star map. The final gate, the prison of the old gods, was hidden on Growlithe. And if Reichs reached, at first he could release something worse than death. "This is not just about me anymore," she said. "This is about everything." Sirva stepped beside her. "Your power may not be enough alone. Once the gate opens, no one knows what might come out." Tiara looked at her hands. The symbols on her skin were no longer golden. They were now pure white, ancient final. "Then we don't fight to win," she said, "when we fight to protect." The final battle began on the ashes of Growlithe. The Ember Ring landed with fire and fury, swords drawn, shields raised, light glowing in every hand. They met armies of the deep, shadows shaped like beasts, soldiers with hollow eyes, and the ground itself screaming as it cracked. Tiara led from the front, her staff blazing like a second sun. Every step she took left light behind. Every swing of her staff turned dark to dust. But Reichs was waiting, at the gate, a towering structure of bone and broken time, spinning slowly in the sky, pulsing with hunger. When she reached him, the ground beneath them fell away, and they stood above the void, just them and everything they had become. "This is your last chance," Reichs said, voice echoing like thunder. "Join me. Open the gate. Become what you were meant to be." "You're wrong," she replied. "I was meant to end you." He laughed. "You are already broken. What can you do alone?" "I'm not alone." And then, the gate behind them burst open. From it came not a monster, but a choice, a voice, deep and old and terrible. "One must fall to seal the gate," Reichs screamed. "Let it be her!" Tiara fell to her knees, eyes wide. Corvin's face flashed in her mind, his smile, his belief, his words. "Don't forget who you are." She stood and walked toward the gate. Reichs tried to stop her, but her light burned through his shadow. His screams faded as his body melted into nothing. She stood at the edge of the open gate, the storm pulling at her. "What are you doing?" Sirva cried from the battlefield. "I'm finishing what they started," Tiara said softly. "I'm not just a warden. I am the storm." She raised her staff and stepped forward. A flash of light. The gate screamed, and then silence. When the light faded, the sky was clear. Growlithe was whole again. The Dark Order was gone, and at the center of the battlefield, a single figure stood. Tiara. Alive, but changed. Her skin now shimmered like crystal. Her eyes, starlight. She had not died. She had become something new, a true balance between light and shadow. Years passed. Under her guidance, the galaxy changed. No, more kings who ruled with fear. No more priests of silence. The Ember Ring became a council of peacekeepers, human and alien alike. And at the center of it all, the Warden Queen walked, soft-spoken, gentle, wise, and unstoppable. But every year on the day of the battle, she returned to the Silver Moon to sit under the tree where Corvin slept. She never spoke, but the leaves always glowed brighter when she came. The broken daughter, the human warrior, the storm they tried to stop, and the peace they gave everything to protect. This was their story. This was their legacy, and it would never be forgotten.